She heard snapping branches behind her, and when she turned, the mother bear was standing between her cubs and a looming threat, ready to do whatever it took to protect them. The forest was alive with the soft hum of evening. Leaves whispered in the gentle wind, and the distant river gurgled over smooth stones. Amid this calm, a mother bear moved with deliberate caution, her two small cubs padding silently behind her. The sun was dipping low, spilling warm golden hues across the undergrowth, but the shadows between the trees were already stretching, hiding unseen dangers. Lena, a wildlife observer trained to watch without interfering, crouched low behind a thick pine trunk, her eyes scanning the terrain. She had been tracking the bear family for hours, noting the cubs' playful curiosity, their tentative steps, and the careful guidance of their mother. Every rustle of a branch, every crack of a twig underfoot made her pause, heart skipping a beat. She knew that in this wilderness, survival was a delicate balance, and one misstep could shift the balance in an instant. The mother bear paused mid-step, ears twitching. Her gaze swept the forest with precision, nostrils flaring slightly. She had sensed it, a subtle shift in the air, a presence that did not belong. With a gentle nudge of her nose, she pressed the cubs closer, steering them toward thicker underbrush. The cubs, small and vulnerable, instinctively obeyed, trusting their mother without question. There was a language here, unspoken but clear. She was their protector and they must follow. Lena held her breath, eyes fixed on the scene. The mother's fur glimmered in the waning sunlight, her movements graceful yet purposeful. Every step she took was calculated, each glance toward the shadows measured. Lena felt a thrill of awe and a shiver of fear at the same time. Observing wild bears in their natural element was a privilege, but the risk was palpable. This was a living, breathing story of instinct and survival unfolding before her eyes. Suddenly, a low rustle from a dense thicket caused the cubs to flinch. Their small bodies pressed closer together, ears pinned back, eyes wide and alert. The mother bear froze, every muscle in her body taut with attention. She shifted her stance, subtly blocking the cubs from the direction of the sound. Lena's heart raced as she realized the tension. The forest had become a stage for an invisible drama, where predator and prey were separated by mere instincts and decisions. The mother bear's eyes glinted with intensity. She sniffed the air and gave a low, controlled growl, a warning that vibrated through the quiet clearing. The cubs responded instinctively, crouching lower, trusting their mother to guide them. Lena understood then that this moment was more than a simple encounter. It was a lesson in vigilance, courage, and the primal bond between mother and child. Time seemed to stretch, every second heavy with anticipation. The wind carried a scent that only the mother bear could identify, a subtle signal that danger lurked nearby. Lena's gaze followed her every movement, the tension building as the mother adjusted her position, nudging the cubs deeper into cover, her eyes never leaving the source of the threat. And then, from deep within the forest, came a distant, haunting howl. It was low, resonant, and carried through the trees with a chilling clarity. The sound froze both Lena and the cubs in place. The mother bear's ears flattened, and she tensed further, readying herself to face whatever lay ahead. Lena's stomach churned as she realized that the true test of instinct and bravery was about to begin. What had the cubs sensed? Was the threat immediate? Or was it a warning from the unseen creatures of the wilderness? The mother bear did not hesitate. She positioned herself strategically, shielding her young, muscles coiled and ready. Every choice she would make in the next moments would determine whether her cubs remained safe or faced the dangers of the wild alone. Lena whispered softly to herself, almost as if saying it aloud might break the spell, "What would you do if you were in her place?" And in that breathless instant, the forest seemed to hold its own anticipation, the shadows lengthened, and the first true test of the mother's courage approached. A low, echoing snap came from behind a thick oak, the sound of a predator or just another rustling branch. The mother bear's gaze sharpened, and her cubs pressed even closer, unaware of the eyes that were now fixed on them from the shadows. The forest seemed quieter now, yet the tension in the air was palpable. The mother bear had nudged her cubs toward thicker underbrush, but the little ones were restless. Their curious noses twitched as they sniffed unfamiliar scents, and their small paws left delicate impressions on the soft earth. Lena stayed frozen behind her tree, heart pounding, watching this delicate ballet of instinct and innocence. One cub, slightly bolder than the other, stepped closer to an open clearing. The sunlight glimmered off dew-kissed leaves, making the patch of open ground appear both inviting and dangerous. The mother bear noticed immediately. Her ears twitched and she lowered her body slightly, muscles coiling like a spring. She moved with purpose, positioning herself strategically between the cub and potential danger, a silent guardian prepared to intervene. The cub paused mid-step, sensing the mother's intensity. Its small eyes darted between the mother and the shadowy edges of the clearing. Lena's breath caught. She had seen countless wildlife interactions before, but there was a rare clarity in this moment. The cub's vulnerability, the mother's unwavering protective instinct, and the forest's silent observation combined to create a scene of raw emotion. Every step the mother bear took was deliberate. She circled slightly, eyes scanning, nose twitching, ready to react at the slightest hint of threat. Lena marveled at how intelligent and patient the bear was. Unlike the unpredictable nature of human emotion, the bear's actions were precise, a language written in movement and subtle cues. Suddenly, a faint rustle came from the far end of the clearing. The cub froze, its small body pressed instinctively against the mother's side. The rustle was subtle, almost imperceptible, but in the forest, even the smallest sound can mean the difference between safety and danger. Lena leaned forward slightly, trying to catch a glimpse, but the dense foliage obscured everything. Her pulse quickened. The mother bear growled softly, a low, resonant sound that seemed to vibrate through the trees. It was a warning but also a lesson. The cubs understood immediately, crouching lower, moving in harmony with their mother's lead. Lena whispered to herself, "This is how they survive. They watch, they listen, they learn." It was a living classroom, and the lessons were survival itself. Then, a movement flickered at the edge of Lena's vision. A shadow among the trees, a predator perhaps, or just a wandering deer. Lena couldn't tell. But the mother bear's reaction was instantaneous. She shifted her weight, one paw slightly forward, ears flattened against her head. Her eyes locked onto the source of movement, calculating, assessing, ready to act. The cubs pressed closer, small bodies trembling slightly, yet guided by instinct, completely trusting their mother's judgment. For several tense minutes, they remained frozen in this delicate balance. Lena's mind raced with questions. How would the mother react if the threat escalated? Could the cubs understand the danger without words? Every subtle twitch of muscle, every cautious glance, revealed lessons Lena would never forget. Then a distant echo of a howl shattered the temporary calm. The sound carried across the trees, deep and haunting. The cubs flinched, eyes wide, and the mother bear stiffened, ears swiveling, muscles taut. Lena felt her own chest tighten. The forest seemed to lean in, listening, waiting. The echo was a reminder that danger was never far, that survival depended on instinct and courage. The mother bear shifted slightly, guiding her cubs back toward safer undergrowth, her movements deliberate and precise. Lena realized that this was more than a moment of tension. It was a lesson in leadership, trust, and courage. The mother bear was teaching her young cubs how to navigate a world full of unseen threats, preparing them for the challenges ahead. Just as the cubs settled into the cover, a faint crack echoed from above. A branch snapping, a predator moving unseen, or another test from the forest itself. The mother's ears twitched, and Lena held her breath, sensing that the next moments would demand instinct, courage, and perhaps sacrifice. The forest held its breath, shadows shifting in the golden light of late afternoon. The mother bear had guided her cubs to a denser thicket, yet the cubs' curiosity was not so easily subdued. One of them, a small male with a curious glint in his eyes, inched toward a fallen log that stretched across a shallow stream. The water sparkled, reflecting the sky, and to the cub, it seemed like an invitation to explore. The mother noticed immediately. Her ears twitched and her body stiffened, every muscle taut with alertness. She let out a low, rumbling growl, a warning but tempered with patience. The cub froze, ears pinned back, eyes wide. He trusted her, but the allure of the unknown was strong. Lena, crouched behind a pine, watched intently, heart hammering. She understood the gravity of this moment. The cub's small misstep could trigger danger, yet his desire to explore was natural. The mother bear's gaze shifted between the cub and the surrounding forest. She needed to make a decision, either allow him a small risk to learn, or strictly control the situation to keep him safe. It was a subtle balance, one that no human teacher could replicate. Lena marveled at the intelligence in this choice. The bear's instincts were precise, her decisions shaped by years of survival and understanding of the wilderness. The cub inched further, pawing at the moss-covered log, testing its stability. The water gurgled below and a ripple ran through the shallow stream. The mother bear growled again, firmer this time, stamping a paw lightly on the ground. Her eyes bore into the cub, a silent message of caution. Yet she did not pull him back immediately. She allowed him a tiny measure of independence, knowing that small experiences like this were lessons in balance, caution, and awareness. Lena's gaze followed every movement. The cub's confidence grew as he balanced precariously on the log, and the mother watched with unwavering attention. Every twitch of her ears, every subtle shift of her body, was an unspoken cue to the cubs, a guide without words. Lena thought of the human lessons we so often forget: patience, observation, and measured action. Here in the wilderness, these lessons were matter of life and death, taught with instinct and necessity. Suddenly the wind shifted. A scent came from upstream, faint yet distinct. The mother's head snapped toward it, nostrils flaring. Lena's heart skipped. The forest had become a theater of tension, and the mother bear, its leading actress, moved with absolute focus. The cub teetered on the log, oblivious to the danger his mother had detected. With a swift, graceful motion, the mother bear placed herself between the cub and the source of the scent. She pressed a paw lightly against his back, guiding him back toward safer ground. The cub hesitated, torn between exploration and obedience, but the presence of his mother reassured him. Lena realized that this was more than instinct. It was trust forged through countless moments of protection and guidance. Then a sudden sound cracked through the forest, a branch snapping underfoot, closer than before. The cub froze entirely, and the mother bear stiffened, ears pinned, teeth bared just enough to show warning. Lena felt her pulse spike. Was it a predator? Another curious animal? Or the cub's own playful misstep? The forest offered no answers, only suspense. The mother bear acted decisively. She nudged both cubs toward a hollow under a large pine, a natural shelter from any approaching threat. Her muscles tensed, ready to spring if danger emerged. Lena's eyes widened as she realized the depth of instinct, courage, and maternal sacrifice at play. Every decision here was critical, and the cubs' survival depended entirely on their mother's wisdom. As the cubs huddled under the pine, a shadow moved closer from the edge of the clearing. The mother bear's body coiled, eyes sharp, ready to protect. Lena's breath caught. What would emerge from the shadows next, predator or opportunity? The forest seemed to hold its breath. The cubs pressed against the soft earth under the hollow of a giant pine, their tiny bodies quivering with a mix of fear and curiosity. The mother bear stood a few feet away, ears perked, body taut like a drawn bow, eyes scanning the forest for any sign of danger. Lena's heart pounded in rhythm with the distant rustle of leaves and the occasional snap of a twig. Something was coming closer, though what exactly remained unseen. The wind shifted again, carrying scents and sounds from deeper within the forest. The mother bear's nose twitched, nostrils flaring as she picked up the faint, unfamiliar odor. It was subtle, almost ghostly in its presence, but enough to trigger instinct. Lena knew from her observations that bears could detect threats far before humans even suspected them. This was one of those rare moments where instinct and environment collided, creating a tension that was almost tangible. Suddenly, a low, guttural growl echoed from behind a dense clump of ferns. The mother bear froze, then slowly moved to shield the cubs with her body. Her growl deepened, resonating through the undergrowth, a sound that was both a warning and a declaration. The cubs huddled closer, trembling, yet finding comfort in the unwavering presence of their mother. Lena watched with a mixture of awe and apprehension, knowing that any misstep here could escalate into danger. A shadow flickered through the trees, larger than the cubs, heavier than the mother, and moving with deliberate intent. Lena's stomach knotted. The forest had revealed its hidden visitor, a wild wolf, its eyes glinting, muscles rippling under thick fur. It moved silently, but each step was calculated, each sniff a test of the territory. The mother bear's stance shifted, one paw slightly forward, ears flattened, teeth barely visible in a low snarl. She was ready for confrontation, yet she would only fight if absolutely necessary. The wolf paused, sensing the mother's power and the cub's presence. It let out a soft whine, testing the air, and then retreated slightly, circling as if weighing its options. Lena felt her own chest tighten. She had witnessed bear-wolf encounters before in research videos, but never up close. Here in the forest the rules were simple: strength, instinct, and courage determined the outcome. The cubs peered from beneath the pine hollow, tiny noses twitching, eyes wide as they tried to understand the tension. The mother nudged them subtly, guiding them further under cover while keeping her body between the cubs and the wolf. Lena marveled at the intelligence in this protective behavior. There was no panic, no irrational action, only calculated, instinctive defense. For several heartbeats, the standoff continued. The wolf tested its courage, moving closer, then retreating as the mother bear let out a low, commanding growl. Lena's hands clenched around her binoculars, feeling every ounce of suspense as if she were part of the forest drama herself. Each creature respected the other, yet each sensed the potential for conflict lingering in the air. Then, unexpectedly, the wolf lunged, not toward the cubs, but toward a fallen branch that had made the low snapping sound earlier. It was investigating, not attacking. The mother bear relaxed slightly but remained vigilant, allowing her cubs to inch forward cautiously, their curiosity and caution intertwined in delicate balance. Lena exhaled slowly, heart still racing, realizing that the forest was full of lessons. Moments of danger intertwined with discovery, all teaching the young cubs how to navigate the world. Just as the wolf turned and disappeared into the shadows, another sound came from deeper in the forest, heavier, slower, and unmistakably deliberate. The mother bear's ears perked again, her body tensing. Something else was coming, and Lena's pulse surged. What new challenge awaited the family in the depths of the wilderness? The mother bear led her cubs away from the tension of the wolf encounter, moving steadily toward the distant river. The cubs' tiny paws sank into damp earth, leaving delicate impressions in the mud, while their eyes flickered with both exhaustion and curiosity. The forest was alive with sounds, birds calling, leaves rustling, water trickling in the distance. But none of these could calm the underlying tension that lingered in the air. Lena followed carefully, her eyes scanning the terrain, knowing that even a calm river could present dangers for young, inexperienced cubs. As the river came into view, the sunlight danced across the water, highlighting ripples and currents that shifted unpredictably. The mother bear paused at the bank, sniffing the air, assessing the river's strength and observing the path ahead. The cubs approached cautiously, dipping paws into the shallow edges, feeling the cold water and reacting instinctively to its unexpected chill. Lena watched with bated breath, knowing that this was another critical teaching moment. The cubs would have to learn the delicate balance between curiosity and caution, guided by the steady hand of their mother. One cub, emboldened by the gentle movement of water, ventured farther than the mother anticipated. Its small body trembled slightly as the current tugged at its paws. The mother bear immediately shifted, nudging the cub with her powerful snout, eyes locking onto him with silent but unmistakable instruction. Lena felt her pulse quicken. The instinctive communication between mother and cub was astonishing, a dance of trust and discipline that transcended language. The river widened here and the current grew stronger. Rocks jutted out, slick with moss, creating a natural puzzle of obstacles. The mother bear tested the route first, placing paws carefully, moving with measured, deliberate motions to show the safest path. The cubs watched and mimicked, tiny bodies teetering on rocks, learning through observation. Lena realized that the mother's actions weren't just about immediate safety, they were teaching skills the cubs would need for life. Suddenly, a submerged log shifted with the current, sending a small wave toward the cubs. Panic flashed across their small faces as water splashed their fur, and the mother bear lunged forward with a swift, fluid motion, grabbing the cub by its scruff and pulling it to safety. The other cub froze momentarily, unsure of what to do, until the mother nudged it gently, encouraging forward motion. Lena's heart raced. Nature could be beautiful and deadly in equal measure, and she witnessed the delicate balance of survival firsthand. As they continued across the river, the cubs began to gain confidence, stepping carefully, paw by paw, while the mother stayed vigilant, guiding, correcting, and occasionally demonstrating by example. Each successful step was met with a small, almost imperceptible nuzzle, a sign of approval and encouragement. Lena marveled at the subtlety of the interaction, lessons delivered without sound, yet understood perfectly. Just as the family reached the far bank, a sudden crack of a falling branch echoed from upstream. The mother's ears twitched, muscles tensing as the cubs froze instinctively behind her. Lena held her breath, recognizing the cyclical nature of danger and discovery in the wilderness. Every lesson carried risk, every step required awareness. As the cubs peered over the far bank, a shadow moved swiftly along the opposite riverbank, and the mother's body stiffened. Something was approaching, and it was bigger than anything they had faced so far. Lena's pulse surged. Would the family manage the next challenge without incident? The family had just settled on the far bank, the cubs' fur damp and glistening from their river crossing. The mother bear shook herself vigorously, droplets scattering into the sunlight like tiny diamonds, while the cubs nuzzled close, catching their breath. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the tension of the forest had lifted, but the wilderness rarely offers prolonged calm. Above, the sky began to shift subtly, clouds rolling in with an ominous hue. Lena squinted upward, noticing how quickly the winds were picking up, rustling the treetops and sending leaves spiraling to the ground. The mother bear lifted her head, sniffing the air with heightened alertness. She knew instinctively what humans often fail to recognize until it's too late. Weather could become a predator itself, unpredictable and dangerous. Within moments, the first drops fell, light at first, tapping softly on leaves in the river's surface. The cubs squeaked, startled, glancing at their mother for guidance. She responded immediately, nudging them toward a denser clump of pines that offered partial shelter. Lena followed, slipping between trees, her coat now slick with rain. The forest transformed. The gentle gurgle of the river became a louder, churning current, and the forest floor turned slick with wet leaves and mud. The storm intensified rapidly. Rain fell in sheets, drumming on branches and hitting the river with a relentless rhythm. The mother bear positioned herself between her cubs and the elements, shielding them as best she could. Her body was tense, muscles coiled for any sudden threat that might emerge from the shifting shadows of rain-drenched forest. The cubs huddled close, seeking warmth and safety, their small noses pressed into her damp fur. Lena felt a chill, not just from the rain but from witnessing the raw, primal display of care and survival before her. As they moved slowly through the downpour, the mother bear's eyes scanned the terrain, avoiding slick rocks and unstable ground. Each step was deliberate, precise, a lesson in how to navigate danger while protecting the young. One cub slipped slightly on a mossy log, paws sliding toward the rushing water. Instinctively, the mother swung a massive paw to steady him, while nudging him back onto solid ground. Lena's breath caught. She knew that in this environment, even minor mistakes could have consequences. Thunder rumbled in the distance, echoing through the valley, shaking leaves from the trees and startling a flock of birds into flight. The cubs whimpered, tiny bodies quivering with fear, but the mother's steady presence reassured them. She had weathered countless storms in her life, and her knowledge, passed silently to her cubs, was what would ensure their survival. Lena couldn't help but compare this to human parenting, the constant vigilance, the courage and the sacrifices made for young ones' safety. Suddenly, a large branch broke free from a tree overhead, crashing near the cubs with a deafening crack. They bolted instinctively, but the mother bear intercepted them, pressing her body against theirs to shield them from harm. Lena's heart pounded. The forest had reminded everyone that danger was never far, even in moments that seemed peaceful. Finally, after what felt like hours but was likely only minutes, the storm began to wane. Rain slackened to a gentle drizzle, and sunlight began filtering through the heavy clouds. The cubs peeked out, mud streaking their fur, eyes wide yet gleaming with excitement and relief. The mother exhaled, rolling her shoulders and shaking off water, before nudging her cubs toward safer terrain. Lena followed, heart still racing, marveling at the resilience and wisdom displayed before her. As the cubs explored cautiously, Lena noticed a darker shadow moving along the ridge above the riverbank, not storm clouds but something watching. The mother bear stiffened, ears twitching, sensing a presence Lena couldn't yet see. Who or what had survived the storm with them, waiting to make its move? The storm had passed, leaving the forest damp and fragrant, the scent of wet earth rising into the air. The mother bear led her cubs along a narrow trail, each step careful, deliberate. The cubs' fur was matted with mud, yet their eyes gleamed with excitement. Each adventure in the forest was a lesson, and each moment of survival a story they would carry into adulthood. Lena followed at a safe distance, her binoculars trained on the trio, captivated by their blend of curiosity and caution. Suddenly, the stillness of the post-storm forest was broken by an unusual sound, the crackle of a branch underfoot, deliberate and unfamiliar. The mother bear's ears shot forward, nostrils flaring, and her body tensed immediately. The cubs instinctively scurried behind her, their tiny noses pressed to her sides, seeking safety. Lena's pulse quickened. The forest was full of surprises, and this one carried a weight she couldn't yet measure. From behind a dense thicket, a figure emerged, a human stranger, cautiously moving with a backpack slung over one shoulder, eyes scanning the surroundings. Unlike Lena, this stranger didn't seem to notice the bear family immediately. The mother bear, however, sensed every movement, every sound. Her growl was low and deliberate, a warning that carried through the trees. The stranger froze, mid-step, ears catching the vibration of the forest in a way only those truly attuned could. The cubs peeked out curiously but stayed close to their mother, who now had to make a choice. She could retreat with her cubs deeper into the forest, but she also needed to assert her presence, to teach the cubs that some encounters required courage and awareness. Lena could see the tension ripple through the air, the delicate balance of threat and trust in a single glance. The stranger froze, hands slightly raised, not out of aggression but caution. A small whistle escaped their lips, soft, almost apologetic. The mother bear's gaze didn't waver and the cub's eyes widened. Here was an unexpected challenge. The forest had introduced a new variable, a potential ally or a risk. Lena held her breath. Even with years of observation, nature had a way of testing instincts in real time, and this encounter was a perfect example. Minutes stretched as the standoff continued. The strangers slowly reached into their backpack, producing a small package of food, seemingly harmless, but in the wilderness, anything edible could become a source of tension. The mother bear shifted slightly, nudging her cubs closer, evaluating the intent. Lena noticed the intelligence in her actions. Every movement was purposeful, teaching the cubs the importance of caution, observation, and decisive action. Finally, the stranger placed the package on the ground, then stepped back, hands visible, showing no threat. The mother bear sniffed from a distance, muscles still coiled, then allowed herself a cautious approach. The cubs followed, tentative but learning from their mother's judgment. Lena observed in awe as the bear demonstrated trust and measured risk, a lesson she would never forget. Just as the tension began to ease, a sudden rustle from the undergrowth drew everyone's attention. The mother bear's body stiffened again, ears twitching as the cubs instinctively huddled closer. Lena realized that in the wilderness, every encounter, human or animal, carried a ripple of consequences, and the forest had not finished its tests for this family. The rustling grew louder, deliberate, almost as if someone, or something, was approaching the stranger. The mother bear's gaze sharpened, eyes locking onto the movement. Lena's stomach tightened. Who was coming, and would the mother be able to protect her cubs again? The rustling grew louder, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. The mother bear's stance stiffened, muscles coiled like springs, ready to protect her cubs at a moment's notice. The cubs pressed closer to her, eyes wide, small ears flattened. Lena's heart raced. The moment had come to see whether instincts and experience could guide this family through yet another unpredictable challenge. From the undergrowth, a second human figure emerged. An older ranger, familiar with the rhythms of the forest, his uniform slightly damp from the earlier storm. His presence immediately shifted the tension. Unlike the stranger, whose movements had been cautious but uncertain, the ranger carried an air of authority and calm, his eyes scanning the surroundings with practiced precision. He froze when he saw the bear family but did not flee. Instead, he spoke in a soft, steady voice, acknowledging the mother's dominance without challenging it. The mother bear's growl softened, more of a low warning than a threat, as she continued to shield her cubs. The ranger crouched slightly, showing he meant no harm, extending one hand slowly with a piece of dried fish, a gesture that was both respectful and non-threatening. The cubs twitched their noses, fascinated by the scent, but stayed close to their mother, who watched the exchange with keen intelligence. Lena realized she was witnessing a rare moment of interspecies communication, subtle yet powerful. The first stranger, now less tense, mirrored the ranger's behavior, slowly backing up and giving the mother bear space. The cubs took tentative steps forward, curiosity overcoming fear. The mother bear sniffed the offered fish, then glanced at her cubs, seemingly giving silent permission. The cubs followed her lead, tasting the morsel and learning from her judgment. Lena marveled at the efficiency of the teaching moment, lessons of caution, trust, and shared risk all unfolding in real time. As the family interacted with the humans, the forest around them continued its symphony of recovery after the storm. Birds chirped softly, water trickled along the riverbank, and the scent of wet pine filled the air. The mother bear, now satisfied that the cubs were safe, allowed a moment of relaxation, nuzzling them gently. The cubs responded with playful nudges, tentative yet confident enough to explore the brief calm. Lena noted how quickly tension could shift in the wilderness, a reminder that survival required constant awareness and flexibility. The ranger motioned toward a safer path through the woods, one less exposed to predators or sudden environmental hazards. The mother bear observed, then carefully led her cubs in the suggested direction. The first stranger followed at a respectful distance, clearly absorbing the lessons of patience and observation. Lena, camera in hand, captured the moment, a living testament to the delicate balance between trust, caution, and mutual respect that defined life in the wild. Just as the family began moving along the safer path, a sudden snap echoed from behind them, a branch giving way under weight unknown. The mother bear stiffened instantly, ears twitching, eyes scanning rapidly. The cubs huddled closer, muscles taut, ready to follow their mother's lead. Lena's breath caught, realizing the forest tests were far from over. The mother bear's gaze locked onto a figure partially obscured by trees, large, moving with purpose, its presence unfamiliar and potentially threatening. The cub's small bodies trembled as the air seemed to pulse with tension. Lena felt her pulse accelerate. Who was coming, and would the mother bear once again need to defend her cubs? The forest was shifting again, but this time the change was subtle, almost imperceptible at first. The sun had begun its descent, casting long, dappled shadows across the damp forest floor. The mother bear nudged her cubs along a narrow path, urgency in every step. Lena, keeping pace at a cautious distance, noticed the rhythm of the forest shifting, animals retreating into the undergrowth, birds silencing their songs, and the distant murmur of the river sounding more urgent. Twilight was arriving, and in the wilderness, darkness was as dangerous as any predator. The cubs stumbled occasionally over exposed roots and slick patches of mud, but their mother's careful guidance kept them on course. She moved with a fluid grace, each step calculated to avoid danger, yet efficient enough to make up for lost time. Lena observed the tension in her posture, muscles flexed, ears flicking, eyes scanning for movement, all of it communicating silent lessons to the cubs. In this environment, twilight was a threshold between safety and exposure, and every second mattered. Suddenly, the first stranger called out softly, trying not to startle the bears. The mother bear paused mid-step, ears twitching, and the cubs huddled close. Lena felt the hair on her arms rise. Even familiar voices were unpredictable to a wild animal. The ranger, calm and deliberate, motioned for the stranger to remain still and follow at a distance. It was a perfect demonstration of human restraint, understanding that even helpful intentions could provoke a reaction. As they moved, the shadows lengthened, blending trees into ominous silhouettes. The river, now a gleaming ribbon of twilight reflections, signaled both a boundary and a guide. The mother bear guided her cubs along the safer side, avoiding the fast current, teaching them to trust instinct, sight, and sound. One cub glanced back at Lena, whiskers twitching, then pressed forward when nudged by its mother. Each moment was a lesson in courage and caution intertwined. The wind carried a new scent, smoke, faint but unmistakable. Lena's heart skipped. The forest was vast, but even distant smoke could signal danger, a fire or a human encroachment. The mother bear's ears flattened, eyes narrowing, muscles tensing instantly. She moved faster, nudging her cubs, urgency layered with protection. Lena followed, adrenaline mixing with awe as she realized just how fragile safety could be in the wilderness. Branches snapped beneath unseen footsteps, and the cubs squeaked, frightened but obedient. The mother bear turned once, sending a low growl toward the source of sound, a warning more than an attack. Lena could feel the tension thick in the air. Twilight was compressing time, forcing every decision to matter, every step to be deliberate. The ranger stayed calm, guiding the first stranger subtly, while allowing the bear family to lead the way. It was a delicate dance, where instinct, wisdom, and human understanding intersected. Finally, a clearing appeared ahead, bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun. The mother bear slowed, sensing relative safety, but her gaze remained sharp, scanning for threats. The cubs relaxed slightly, small bodies shaking off tension, ears twitching less frequently. Lena exhaled, realizing how close they had come to the invisible dangers that twilight could bring. Yet even as relief settled, a lingering pulse of uncertainty remained. Just as the family began to settle in the clearing, the mother bear stiffened once again. From the tree-line opposite, a shadow moved, larger than any human yet unfamiliar. The cubs froze, eyes wide. Lena's heart pounded. Whatever was approaching, the mother bear would have to make a critical choice to protect her young, and Lena knew the next moment could determine their survival. The clearing stretched ahead, bathed in the soft amber glow of the fading sun. The mother bear moved cautiously, yet with a visible relaxation in her stride. The cubs mirrored her calm, tiny bodies lighter, curiosity overcoming fear as they sniffed the edges of the clearing. The forest, once full of hidden threats and uncertainty, seemed to breathe with them, the rhythm of life resuming its gentle pace. Lena followed at a careful distance, heart still racing, camera poised to capture the moment that marked a transition from tension to tranquility. From the tree-line, the shadow that had caused the mother bear's sudden alertness earlier now revealed itself to be a harmless elk, grazing quietly and unaware of the drama that had unfolded. The mother bear's posture softened instantly, ears flicking back in relief. The cubs tumbled playfully into the leaves, and a soft growl of contentment escaped the mother as she nudged them gently. It was a moment of victory, a quiet celebration of survival and the bonds that had carried them through the challenges of the day. The ranger approached slowly, maintaining a respectful distance. He knelt briefly, observing the family, then whispered reassuringly to the first stranger, indicating the bear family's relaxed state. Lena watched in awe as the humans and wildlife coexisted peacefully in that moment, a rare harmony that highlighted the potential for understanding and respect between species. The mother bear, sensing the absence of immediate threat, allowed herself a deeper moment of relaxation, her cubs nestled against her sides. Lena felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for witnessing such a vivid example of instinct, intelligence, and maternal devotion in the wild. She realized that every step, every decision, every moment of tension had been a lesson for both the cubs and herself. Survival in the wilderness was not just about strength or speed, it was about awareness, patience, and the careful evaluation of risk. The mother bear had imparted those lessons in every glance, growl, and nudge. As twilight deepened, the family began moving toward a den area, partially hidden by thick foliage and rocks, a place the mother had scouted earlier. The cubs hesitated at the threshold, but a gentle nudge and soft grunt from their mother encouraged them forward. Lena noted the calm authority in the mother's guidance, a stark contrast to the earlier tension, now replaced by a sense of security and completion. The ranger and the stranger watched from a safe distance, honoring the space and allowing nature to take its course. Once inside the den, the mother bear arranged her cubs in a tight circle, their small bodies pressed against her for warmth and protection. Lena took a quiet breath, knowing this was the moment the cubs felt safe, truly safe for the first time since the storm had begun. She reflected on the lessons of courage, maternal instinct, and the delicate balance of trust and caution that had carried them here. As darkness settled over the forest, Lena whispered softly to herself, capturing the reflective takeaway of the day. In the wilderness, survival is never accidental. It is the product of vigilance, instinct, and the unspoken lessons of those who protect us. She knew that the bear family's journey would continue, full of challenges and discoveries, yet tonight they were safe, bonded by shared experience and maternal devotion. Lena lowered her camera, a quiet smile crossing her face. She realized that respect, empathy, and understanding, both human and animal, could create harmony in even the most unpredictable wilderness. The cubs snuggled closer to their mother, breathing slowing in contentment, while the forest itself seemed to exhale in relief. What would you have done if you were in the forest with this mother and her cubs? Could you have earned their trust like the ranger?